Greetings, everyone.
Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
It's Jake Ciely.
Opening our minds to new ideas. Kill him!
Who is that guy?
Your mama.
You just made the list!
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in fantasy. Ladies of the ranks.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
Game on, you ducks. It is All in Fantasy Tales of the Ranks. Yes, if you are new podcast name, or if you've been with us and haven't checked out the first few episodes, new name, new logo, new everything, but it's still us, still having a lot of fun. Tales of the Ranks, of course, because I rank everything in existence. If I rank 70 plus cereals, that's all you need to know. That's really what it comes down to. We are continuing today for fantasy football purposes, looking at bonus life or game over. It's kind of a little series we've been doing on this podcast, Chris Meany and myself, at Chris Meany, by the way, over at FTN. And this kind of series where we did repeat or retreat studs from 2023, whether they repeat in 2024, and now we're on the opposite side of things. Some busts from 2023, and whether we're giving them a bonus life, give that mushroom, the one from Mario, the good mushroom, and or if it's game over, like take out the cartridge, don't throw the system away, just find a new one, put a new one in there, blow on it a little bit, yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing. And make sure you're checking over at The Athletic. The draft kit is out if you want to download the projection sheet and change things and say, hey, you know what, I think Michael Wilson's going to get 25% of the target share for the Cardinals. You can do that and see what happens to the team. It's very interesting. And one of my favorite, I'm going to keep promoting this article. I don't care.
It's fantastic.
Well, thank you. But like, it's one of those ones, like I worked so hard at it, and I know it's a very data heavy one, whichever way you want to say the word. But it is looking at the stark increase in zone defenses, and also what pre-snap motion does for wide receivers. And it's a really good look and tells you why Romeo Doubs is probably underrated in drafts, and including a lot of other people. But I think we kind of talked about, though, meaning is the fact that if you're going to spend on the Packers, take the cheapest ones. I don't know that they know what the pecking order is going to be, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking running backs, if we have time, wide receivers. If not, next show. That's what you tune in for. And a heads up, right out of the gate. I almost forgot this part. Contest again. Because, yes, new name, new podcast, new everything. Thank you, iTunes, that we had to do this. But, hey, give me a chance to do a new logo. So that's cool. Thank you. Shout out Fox, by the way, who helped design that.
Hell yeah.
But please rate and review on Apple Podcasts. You can do it anywhere you want, but this is specifically for Apple Podcasts because we need to get our listenership back. And the only way to do that is to get us to show up in the ranks. Hey, Tales of the Ranks. So rate and review on Apple. Take a screenshot. If you give us 5 stars, that's 2 entries instead of just 1. If you subscribe, take a screenshot, send it. That's 1, so that's up to 3. And then if you tweet about it and tag us, the show, and everything, so I can actually see that, that is 2 more. It's a total of possible 5 entries. You can do 1, you can do 5, whatever it might be. FTN memberships on the line, highest level, mid-level, low level, so 3 different memberships. And then if we rank inside the top 10, even just for one day on the podcasting network, I will give away a copy of Madden 25. I have to specify 25. Like, here's your copy of Madden 97. Hope you have a Genesis.
Fantastic. Yeah. Man, vintage Madden. Here's the Peyton Hillis Madden. What year was that? That goes away.
Oh, my guess would be 2002.
Yeah, early 2000s.
Let's pull it. Maybe 2001. I'm going to Peyton Hillis Madden. I'm going to do this live on the show. Peyton, 2012. I got the 2 right. I was off by 10 years. Wow, that feels so much longer ago.
Oh, man, absolutely. I thought it was in the early 2000s. I thought your guess was absolutely spot on. It's hard to believe.
Why are we making Peyton Hillis 57 years old?
Yeah, why are we? I don't know. But it's a name that came to my mind when you mentioned an old Madden, and I guess it's not even that old, 12, 15 years ago. So, yeah, I guess the CMC's on the cover, and he's had obviously a better NFL resume than Peyton Hillis did.
Well, thankfully, the good old Madden curse has been long debunked, and we don't have to worry too much about that anymore. But we do have to worry about something. So these are busts. Some of these will be, in quotes, busts. But busts relative, at least like Austin Ekeler's on those lists. We're going to get to him. A lot of these names are there's actually 3 really big names on here, but it's relative to where they were drafted. So my last year's trash does include, my article on The Athletic does include Austin Ekeler. We're talking about somebody who was the number 2 running back off the draft board meaning because of the touchdowns, because of what he had done year in and year out. Injuries, obviously. You know what? We'll start with him since I just brought up his name so much. Injuries kind of ruined his season. He talked about it in the podcast with Matt Harmon. Doesn't feel like he ever got back to 100%, even when he was. By that point, offense broken. It was a mess of a year. Like everything that could have gone wrong for the Chargers, and specifically Austin Ekeler, went wrong. That being said, he's not there anymore. He went from one coast to the other. He's way over here, out by me, now with the Washington Commanders. In a split backfield question mark, we now have Cliff Kingsbury, which we've seen Cliff Kingsbury before as a head coach and offensive coordinator in mind. One thing, if you go to that article talking about pre-snap motion, he's actually one of the worst in pre-snap motion. Now, one of the things I brought up and why not to only base your wide receivers off the pre-snap motion and stuff like that is because Cliff Kingsbury might have sat back in his house and be like, hey, I need to adjust. I need to adjust to the NFL. Like, I'm seeing these things. I need to adjust my tactics. But as it stands, we're not talking about the wide receivers, but we are talking about Austin Ekeler. We know what he can do. We know what he can do on a per-touch basis. One of the best in the league, if he is Austin Ekeler, can get it into the end zone when it's close, even though he's smaller than most. He's a stud. He is the stud of studs outside of Christian McCaffrey. We've seen him finish as number 2 multiple times inside the top 5. But now with Brian Robinson, with the Commanders, and Jaden Daniels, are you buying back in? I don't need you to give him an RB1 status, but hell, top 20 would be a bounce back. Top 20 would be a bonus life compared to what we just saw last year.
Yeah, it would. Did anybody else just sit back and think about Cliff Kingsbury in that big mansion of his? You remember when that?
I did. That's actually, as I said it,
you were thinking
I pictured the draft day picture that we saw.
Yeah. That's what I pictured as well. It's hard for me to say anything negative about Austin Ekeler, the player, or the broadcaster, right? The fantasy sports supporter. And we'll see him more in this business, I think, in a couple of years when his NFL career is over. I don't hate the landing spot. You know, I feel like it's okay in terms of an opportunity for catches because that's what we known from Ekeler. He's just a big baller through the air. Like think of some of the seasons: 92 grabs in 2019, 54 in 2020, 70 in 2021, 107 in 2022, and even being limited. You mentioned the injuries; he missed some time. He still had 51 catches last year. Where I don't see him being productive, where the drop off happens is the carries. He's never been like a huge carry guy. Twice 200 times, but he's never been like a 18 plus carry guy, not super efficient between the tackles, a big time player in fun offense with the Chargers over the past few years inside the red zone. So top 20, I don't think he can get there in a full point PPR league. I think potentially he's knocking on the door of like 24, 25, a low end RB2 in a full point PPR league. But now he has to deal with a running quarterback, right? And Jane Daniels, he has to deal with Brian Robinson Jr., who's going to get a bulk of the carries. And I think it could be split in terms of like goal line stuff. I think it makes sense to give that goal line work to Brian Robinson Jr., but at the same time, Ekeler does have a nose for the end zone. He's pretty shifty. You can give him some touches in around the 5 and he'll make it work for you. And there's not a lot of pass catchers on this team, right? We'd like Jahan Dotson to bounce back, but who else is there?
Part of the reason we like Dotson is because there's not a lot on the depth chart. Like that's right. Like as two Jahan Dotson supporters, I think if you looked at this, like if they drafted Brian Thomas, I'd be like, Jahan Dotson might be done.
Sure.
But so I'm with you in the fact that, and we're talking about Zach Ertz at the end of his career and Ben Sinnott, who nice, but a rookie.
Yeah.
So I think there are opportunities here. But as you brought up, like how much will Jaden Daniels throw to the backfield? This is somebody who's thrown a lot to his wide receivers last year, as we just saw, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors. Right. I will go this way then. If you had to half point PPR, pretty much the norm of this show and kind of where things are these days.
Yep.
Would you take straight up, just this backfield straight up? Are you taking Brian Robinson or are you taking Austin Ekeler?
I'm taking Brian Robinson. Yeah, I'm taking
Is it
Brian
close?
Robinson. It is close. It is close to me. I'm talking half point. Brian Robinson caught a few more passes than I expected him to catch last year, but I do expect Ekeler to catch more passes than him. It is close. I just feel like I'd like him overall as a player. I think he profiles well. I think he runs hard. Could open up some avenues if they decide, with some RPOs inside that offense with Jaden Daniels. I think he will be the lead. I think he'll get more touches. Again, Eckler's getting a little bit older here, right? There's some injuries that have kind of crept up in his game. So again, don't want to say too many negative things about him as the player, because he does have a high ceiling. Like if he can just give half of what he did in 2022, I mean, he's definitely a top 25 running back. But I would lean with the guy that I believe is going to be more durable and get more opportunities on the ground, and that's Brian Robinson Jr.
All right, so I'm going to it real quick. For my base, which you can change, projections, because I do have this backfield going. So I have 210 carries for Brian Robinson. For Austin Ekeler, only 114. Obviously, I have Brian Robinson as being the quote-unquote lead in that area, but I do have 65 targets and 49 receptions for Austin Ekeler. Conversely, for Brian Robinson, 34 and 25. Not a bad number.
No.
Actually, a better reception rate. Do you think, let me put it this way, just off the top with no, obviously, context here, 470 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, 414 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. So about 900 total yards, 6 touchdowns. Does that sound low, high, or is this porridge? Which of the porridge? Is it too hot, too cold, or is it just right?
I think it's just right. I think I like the numbers there. Yeah.
Well, the sad thing is that barely checks him in as a low-end RB3.
Right.
So
it's not great, man. I mean, the carries, I think the carries are fair. Would you say 114-ish?
114 feels...
That seems safe. It seems all right. It's not a lot. It would be the lowest he's had, since 2018, but that's basically what, 8-9 carries a game kind of sprinkled in as really like a 60,
which he's
40
never
type
been
split.
like a 17. I mean, he's had games with 17, 18, even 20 plus carries, but his norm is not averaging 18 carries a game.
Right.
Like,
Just one last year with 18, and I go to 2022 when he had that monster season of 204 carries. I'm looking right now at the game log, and I see 2, 118 and 119, and a handful of single digit carry games, and that's going to happen this year. And on a worse team, let's be honest, it is a worse team. This isn't going to be I think it could be an okay offensive squad. Like maybe it's
the
not
argument
bottom
there should
10.
be that it helps the passing.
It should be that he would be on the field catching some passes. I think there's a world where I don't want to say this. I really hope Jahan Dotson gets some work, but there's a world where he could be second on the team in catches.
I know where you're going.
There is, just like Alvin Kamara could be with the Saints.
As soon as you said, I hope that's not the case for Jahan Dotson. I knew where you're going. Let me change one thing. A show we did a while back on the old podcast. Well, same podcast, old name, old feed. If you want to go back and find it, it was the OTA one, and it was kind of a different version of like OTAs and what could be said that would actually change your opinion. So let me kind of turn that real quickly before we move on to the next running back and change that for you. It's like, what if you get reports right now? What if you get reports, because it is new coaching staff, new offensive coordinator, everything's fresh.
Yeah.
So fresh and so clean. What if you get reports Austin Ekeler looks like Austin Ekeler, Brian Robinson struggling to pick up the new offense? This is the only scenario I could think you would need kind of both. It wouldn't just be Austin Ekeler looks great. It wouldn't be just Brian Robinson struggled today. I'm saying Brian Robinson struggling in this offense. Austin Ekeler looks like he hasn't missed a step. Would that change? Would hearing that change your ranks?
Maybe just a little bit in terms of bumping Ekeler up a touch. I don't know if I would bump Brian Robinson or bump him down at all. It's something that I could see actually happening, as the veteran running back picking up the offense and the new running back, as you said, not picking up the offense and getting some more run from the veteran running back and Austin Ekeler. But I just don't think that there's a world or a scenario where he out touches him, even with all the catches. Let's give him 50. I mean, even with the catches, I don't think that there's a world where he has more touches than Brian Robinson Jr. So, I'd have that one may move the needle for me a touch, but not all that much.
Okay. Do you want to go good, like RB1 previous running back type of person, or do you want to go further down the list? Like a
further down the list.
All right. So an RB1 it is. Quick version, games. Possibly. This really could be the fastest topic we've ever had on the show. Derrick Henry, bonus life or game over? Bonus life. We know that. We've like Meanie and I love some Derrick Henry. If Gus Edwards could do it, if Derrick Henry is even like, if I legitimately told you Derrick Henry is 90% of what he was 2 years ago, you'd be like, I don't care. Fringe RB1. And probably still even better because he'll have the touchdowns in this offense. So let me kind of turn this around a different way. Derrick Henry, if I told you today, Chris Meany, you have to take $100 of your money and 100 American, which means a lot more for you than it does for me.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
now we're talking here.
100 American dollars that Derrick Henry finishes as a top 8. Right, so 7.5. 7.5, you have to take better than 7.5. So that's actually 7. So top 7. I don't like 8. 8 is too easy. Top 7. Would you put that $100 down?
I would.
Okay.
I would.
I like it.
I would. And I would I already gave one of the bets on the XM show. Dane and I, when we get together, we talk some NFL futures rather. And 10.5 is a high number for Derrick Henry. But didn't he have 12 last year on one of the worst offenses in football, not even playing in the third and fourth quarters like we're used to seeing him? He still led the NFL in carries. He still led the NFL in carries, and it was a quote-unquote down year for him in terms of yards per carry
Hold on.
opportunities.
I hate to jump in on you, but I have to. You said 10.5, right? That's the over-under is touchdowns?
Yeah.
Is it total or rushing? It's just rushing?
Total rushing. It's rushing.
Total rushing? No, but I want to clarify for everybody out there, but this is why I'm jumping in. Do you know, since he took over as the lead running back, so his third season, 2018, don't forget for people out there, split with DeMarco Murray and Deion Lewis. Remember good old Deion Lewis? That was fun.
Remember the fun pictures of those two guys, like one just a beast and Deion Lewis is like a little mini
me.
Yeah.
So since Derrick Henry took over, do you know what his lowest rushing touchdown total has been?
I want to say 8 or 9. I know he's got a 16 and he's got a 17.
10 in 8 games. Every other season with at least 15 games, 12 plus.
It's too easy for me. Maybe it's a trap. It's a high number. But you just talked about Gus Edwards, right? Gus Edwards had 13 touchdowns, 12 at the goal line, all 13 inside the 10.
Gus Edwards hit the over on his bet.
He hit the over on the bet, right? Now he just joins a team that is number 1 in rushing. They're up at the top in rush percentage. Like this, they just like want to run the football. You and I have said this before. It's not like Saquon Barkley in Philly, where we'll see some Jalen Hurts at the goal line, or in Buffalo with James Cook. James Cook's rushing touchdown prop is 3.5 because Josh Allen's going to steal all the.
I'll stick the over on that.
I think he's going to hit the over too. It's one that I'm jumping on, and it's plus money, and I think he'll get there. I think 200 plus attempts, and he'll get there. But this isn't a quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Like everyone knows Lamar Jackson rushing yards, but not a lot near the goal line. He could do it, but he normally does it at the 20 and he jukes everybody and he gets in. But he had 1 touchdown at the goal line last year on 5 attempts. So this is set up. If there's no injury for Derrick Henry, he could be RB1 overall, and I would not be shocked. You could have set the line at 5.5, and I'm still probably thinking about putting my $100 on it.
Hey. I'm with you.
We're in, man.
We're in on some Derrick Henry. Let me throw out Derrick Henry or your new running back, Saquon Barkley. Who are you taking?
I do have Saquon ahead of him, but it's the same tier for me. It's the pass catching. What I've seen so far in camp for Philly with Kellen Moore.
Let me try and guess your tier. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it. Is your tier Barkley, Henry, obviously, Taylor, Kyron Williams, Gibbs?
Yeah, that's it. Dane today didn't want to put Kyron in there. I put Breece Hall and Bijan with CMC.
See, I was thinking that initially, but I thought you might be like me and had a mini tier above it.
No, I got them in there. I don't know. I feel like they're going to scale back from CMC a touch this year. I don't know. I know I'm just talking. I still think he's the GOAT, but I think that the usage may come down a little bit for him with the bigger picture on finally getting a Super Bowl there for Shanahan and company. But I have no issues with him.
Are you drafting Elijah Mitchell as the handcuff, or are you buying into this? We're going to get another chance for Jordan Mason talk.
No, I'm not buying into that.
Okay. I was really disappointed with the. I know.
Tough
Keep
few
him
weeks.
On my taxi squad in Dynasty. I love that fit.
Go buy him in Dynasty, right? CMC's flirting with 30 now. You trust Shanahan and what he could do, right? Someone may drop him. I mean, if you could afford to, like you said, taxi, hold on to him and keep him, then do it. But for Philadelphia purposes, man, Kellen Moore, somebody texted me the other day, Shipley's getting first team. Stop it. Saquon was away for a moment for personal reasons. But the biggest takeaway from that is that 2 days ago with Saquon, all I heard was, man, I've never seen Jalen Hurts throw to a running back as much as I've seen here like out of all the training camps, even with Swift last year, who had a career low in targets and catches. And then what did I hear yesterday? And what did Shipley, star of the practice, but it's more so just what they're doing, right? They're moving their running backs all over. They're throwing to their running backs. Guys are in motion. It's going to be a refreshing change of offense. So that's why I would lean with Saquon over Henry, but Henry, those touchdowns and all those is really close.
Well, you know who else was getting first team reps a week and a half ago was Kenneth Gainwell. So like, whatever. You know how I feel about first team reps.
It's just how they're using them, right?
It's
Out wide and
evaluation.
Jalen throwing the football, catching passes.
Yeah. So to go too low, which is originally where you wanted to go, we had the downturn of what has been Devin Singletary's career, up and down and up and down and up and down, and in Houston, which wasn't too surprising because with Houston and splitting with Dameon Pierce, although Dameon Pierce had a big downturn, as everybody knows, but he was coming off back-to-back seasons at 10.5 and 10.3, and then last year 8.7. It was disappointing, but he wasn't necessarily drafted at that. So I don't want to call him a bust for his draft because he wasn't being people were still on Dameon Pierce after what happened in Pierce's rookie season. I think if we're talking the bigger bust here, it's Dameon Pierce, but we don't need to talk about Dameon Pierce because now he's behind Joe Mixon. So for all intents and purposes, irrelevant unless Mixon gets hurt. But for Singletary, the reason why I want to say bonus life or game over, because his discussion involves a new team. He's back with Brian Daboll, and I say back with because let's not forget, he was with the Bills.
That's right.
There is a conversation to be had. Some people were wondering whether Brian Daboll or who wanted Singletary to be the guy, who wanted him only as a timeshare. We still never really got any super clarity on that, but the Giants signing him with Sheen and Daboll together kind of points a little bit to Daboll might have been the one that wanted him to get more touches. This backfield is a giant question mark after him. If Singletary got hurt today, I would be maybe Eric Gray, but this would be one of those situations where the answer on waiver wire would just throw $2 or $3 on all three of them, see who you get, and if you get one, cool, maybe that ends up being the guy. Probably all end up siphoning off each other and nobody's relevant, but I'm saying so that kind of points to what I was going with as well, is that Singletary, for all intents and purposes, is a quote-unquote bell cow for the Giants. Problem is, he's on the Giants. Now, the offensive line, on paper, they made some improvements, some major ones. We're hoping, I say we, as in anybody who's supporting this offense and fantasy or the team in real life, hopes Evan Neal is not a bust, and that similar to some tackles, it takes 2 or 3 years to develop. Sometimes they're slow to catch on in the NFL, but they brought in people in free agency. They made adjustments. Daniel Jones is back. Daniel Jones does help the run game a little bit, but is Singletary a bonus life? Is Singletary in the all I'm giving you, Meanie, is RB24, the lowest of the low RB2s. He just has to be an RB2 this year to have a bonus life.
I don't think so. I don't think so, man. I'm looking now at the season that he had. 9 fantasy points per game. That's RB 38. And I know he took over in the second half of the season. I get that. You can really see, and he had some really good games last year with Houston when he was getting some run. There were some games where he was getting some run and he wasn't super efficient, but there were some games down the stretch of the season. 26 for 121, even just 9 for 44, 16 for 80, 24 for 63 is the type of inefficiency I'm talking about against the Colts. And then, catching balls out of the backfield the last couple of games, 4, 3, 6, a couple. When he was given that bell cow role, he was kind of productive, but it was a good offense. Yeah. You know what I mean? He wasn't facing those stacked boxes. Use FTN data, you see that Saquon was hitting the backfield in 46% of his carries. 46%. It's just one of the highest marks in all football, and compared to Swift, it was 26%. So yes, volume is king, touches, love it. He should, if he stays healthy, rack up a ton of touches. And that's a big if because he's going to take so many shots. And that's what happened with Saquon. You saw it. All those hits, all those shots. At least now they have Malik Neighbors on the squad and a playmaker that could help them move the chains. That does help. But I just feel like he's going to see a lot of stack boxes. How many catches do you have him projected for? If he catches 40, 45 passes?
35.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Linked to one of the worst offenses in football. How many touchdowns is he going to score? I don't know, man. RB 35 seems like a fair price. 30 some odd catches. Don't care about it. You know what I mean?
You're just meh.
I'm kind of torn. You know what? I like the opportunity. I think the line is better, like you said, but I don't think I'm going to have too many Singletary shares. Could be wrong. Where are you at?
No, I don't have a single one yet. Well, here, let's play a little bit of a name game here. So I have Singletary, just so you know. Where is Singletary? I'm at 35, which means I'm getting 0 shares of Devin Singletary. 0.
Yeah.
Because that's actually 35 is still 5 behind ADP. Like that's, I mean, he's essentially for all intents and purposes. Essentially for all intents and purposes. If that's not redundant, for all intents and purposes, he's buried. He's buried on my list. I'm also going to have no shares of the person straight in front of him is Najee Harris. You know how I feel about that backfield. I want nothing to do with the 50-50 split. And if I'm going to, it's Jalen Warren. So in front of him, I'll rattle off these names. You just say yes or no. Say yes if you would take Singletary over him. How about that?
Okay.
We just talked about him. Austin Ekeler.
No.
Okay. Brian Robinson, so no, because I know you're taking Robinson over Ekeler. Zeke or Singletary?
No, go Zeke.
No. Gus Edwards?
Gus Edwards.
Tony Pollard?
No, I take Pollard. Fun Titans
Brooks?
offense.
I don't want RB30.
Yeah.
I want the gamble on Brooks.
And that's the thing. Like the ceiling, Dave
Brooks
Canales
and Chubb.
usage.
I have them back to back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just give me the nice young rookie who I expect to take over. By
All right, so
October.
2 more. Swift and Montgomery.
No.
Mostert?
No.
I still take him. So you don't even have him as top 32 either.
No, I have him at 37.
Oh, so there you go.
Yeah.
Why do you hate Singletary?
You probably could have named a couple other guys there. And maybe we're just looking foolish. Maybe we're looking silly. You're like, are you kidding me? You can get Singletary outside of pick 100 who, 35 plus catches.
If
and
Singletary finishes
200
top 20,
catches.
I'm going to lose my mind.
If he finishes top 20, then the Giants are kind of middle of the pack offensively. I just don't feel like he could be that super productive on just carries at 4 yards per pop and 35 catches. Like, I don't know. Does Daniel Jones check down a whole lot? We saw it sometimes with Saquon Barkley. Saw some big games when it was just Saquon.
I was going to say part of it, too, is figuring that Drew Lock might be quarterback at some point. And then if Drew Lock's at quarterback, do the backfield get fewer? Like, how much do we see going that direction? As a sidebar, real quick, shout out to 100 Yard Rush. Great site if you're not going to do cornhole, darts, poker, whatever. Like, do something with the tournament. NCAA tournament is always a fun one to do. I actually think that's great. It just people kind of forget. They do the NCAA tournament, and it's so long until you draft. Fun ways to decide your draft order. Meaning, I'm doing it a lot. I'll tell people on the show, I'm about to give up. I might have to take the second draft spot. For everybody out there, I don't want to rig it. I'm trying to get me at 5th or 6th because I run the draft, because I run the flex leagues, and I want to make it simple. Like, people don't have to show up with their computers. But I need to be 5 or 6 because the layout we're in, there's only one spot to hook up to the internet and a plug at the same spot. It's where the tables are set up. So that's 5 or 6. For the life of me, I can't get flipping 5 or 6. I don't know why. I'm about to just take the second spot and be done with it. And just like, I'm going to bring 18 extension cords or something. I don't know. I'm furious. I'm annoyed at this point.
18 extension cords because he couldn't get
it's going to be like,
it's going to
be like the Christmas Vacation. It's just going to be like, just gonna blow the entire building up, like not that way. People,
right?
For everybody.
Man, what a freak out by Clark Griswold in Christmas Vacation. At
you
the
know
end
what we're
when he
watching
gets
right
that
now?
Silly non-bonus.
I got Nicole watching Community with me. She never
nice.
watched it. We're halfway through the
funny.
first season. She's like, "This is amazing. This show is hilarious."
Great
Like,
show.
and honestly, he in the first season is the funniest thing about the show. Troy comes along more. He actually develops a lot in the first season. You can actually see the tone shift in the first season. For anybody that hasn't watched Community, I beg you to watch it. It's an amazing, funny show.
It is.
Stick with it. That's definitively one of those shows where somebody says, like, it starts off rough, especially the first episode. But
Sure.
like they get their footing halfway through. Troy becomes a lot Joey, like stupider. He goes from being a jerk jock to kind of like goofier.
Yeah.
Definitely great. It's a shame that he at Pierce. You said Clark. What the hell is his real name? Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase, yeah.
That he was such a problem in real life towards
was,
the end of the show, and they started writing him off a little bit. And then, of course, Troy's not in the final season. But anyway, watch Community. It's great. 2 more running backs. One really good, one not so good. Where are we going, Meanie? Really good or not so good?
Really good.
All right, let's go really good. You never
I
know.
kind of knew you were going to do that one. I went for the really good.
You did? Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
He was really good. Last year, total points, just 27th. A better in points per game. Actually, his points per game mark checks him in at 18, so still pretty good. But not what he used to be, because what he used to be, the season before that, RB2. The 2 seasons before that, in 2020, top 7 running back. The year in between, a little bit of a downturn. He's actually like up, down, up, down, up. It's like the Kelsey seasons. Like, this is it. He's an even season, so this is a good thing. Remember the old San Francisco 49ers, San Francisco Giants in baseball? Wasn't it the odd years,
every
not
other
the evens?
year they won the World Series or made a run.
Was it odds or evens? I forget.
I forget. I feel like it was. I don't know. I don't know.
But you think, yeah, it's like every other year. And like every other year, they're in the World Series.
Yeah.
The player I'm talking about, who also came off 3.5 yards per carry last year with the Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is not with the Raiders anymore. Josh Jacobs got a pretty nice contract. A lot of running backs did. Pretty nice contract to head out to Green Bay. Are you in or are you out on Josh Jacobs for a bonus life? Somebody who arguably wasn't even volume dependent, because last year is the first year that he really looked miserable running the ball. Now, again, the Raiders, part of the problem, also offensive line issue, quarterback issues, just everything issues across the board except for Javonte Adams. But you could say Josh Jacobs, with that contract, it would look like they're going to treat him like Raiders Josh Jacobs. The contract suggests this is somebody who's going to be approaching 270, 280 touches. And if you told me that definitively, I think he's in the RB1 conversation, even potentially top 10. They do have A.J. Dillon. I think at this point, we think A.J. Dillon is a non-factor. I actually think Marshawn Lloyd is more of a factor at this point, but is Marshawn Lloyd even a factor? Again, when you talk about that contract, is it more of like only if Jacobs gets hurt? So bonus life, game over for Josh Jacobs for you, Chris Meany.
Bonus life. Yeah. You mentioned last season, it was just a mess. According to FTN Fantasy, Jacob saw a light box on just 24% of his carries last season, 45% in 2022, which resulted in 4.5 yards per pop. And he led the NFL in rushing yards, right? I think he finished, you said RB3, 1,600 there. So I don't want to look at last year too much. I think it was just a mess. Again, like even watching the Doc receiver, you see Davante Adams just frustrated. Like Jimmy G couldn't get him the ball. He couldn't figure out where Davante Adams is going to be in his routes. Like he is losing it throughout the entire show until the coaching change happens, the quarterback change happens, and he's having fun playing football again. And it's just they couldn't move the ball, stack boxes. So I believe in Jacobs. You mentioned the contract, $48 million over 4 years. You look at his last 2 seasons, 19 attempts per game, 3.2 catches over the last 3 years. He's just not going to see any stack boxes in Green Bay. It's just not going to happen because of all those weapons. And Jordan Love and what he did last year as a passer and the poise in the pocket and some of these sidearm throws. Like Jordan Love is super impressive down the stretch of the season. And all of those guys that he has, like you would just expect the young wide receiver and tight end room to grow, into year 2, year 3. Some of them, I guess Romeo Doubs the only guy in year 4. So I have Jacobs ahead of Travis Etienne. I have him ahead of Isaiah Pacheco. I certainly have him over Devon Chan. So I think he is a top 10 back. You said RB1 conversation. I totally agree. The one thing I'll say is that maybe the touches and the usage won't be the same as the Raiders days, but maybe he'll just be more efficient. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's, he only had 17 carries today, but he had 88, 90 yards instead of 23 for $110 or 85. You know what I mean? I just feel like the touches could come down where it's not as run heavy, but he's a little bit more efficient. Don't believe in A.J. Dillon. Love Marshawn Lloyd as a player. Rookie. Multiple injuries for him in his college career. Probably would have went earlier in the draft if not. And I think that there's a way that they can get out of this contract next year, and then Lloyd is the guy. So I believe they paid him, like you said. Jacobs is the guy. And are we on an island here, or am I on an island? Because a lot of people just don't really care for Josh Jacobs.
I don't think they do either. I just did the numbers real quick, and because he only played 13 games, he averaged almost 21 touches a game, 20.7.
Significant.
So he was still getting there. Even if Green Bay, as you mentioned, even if he gets 18 a game, I think he's in play.
In that offense? Absolutely.
And that's where we're going. I was about to say. So let's play this little bit of a game. I actually just did an episode with Mayo. Depending on when you're listening to this or watching that, you may have seen the other or not the other, but whatever it might be. We did the FC North, and I said it's funny that for the longest time I was called the Aaron Jones hater because I didn't want to rank him inside the top 10 because the touchdowns could be there, but I didn't want to bank on the touchdowns. His workload and his efficiency on his per touch basis made him a great RB2, high end RB2. I just wasn't ever going to put him inside the top 10, even when he finished inside the top 10, because the touchdowns were just so up and down.
Yeah.
That variance. But now I'm in on Aaron Jones, apparently higher than most at 14, because I don't think Ty Chandler's a significant threat.
Agree.
And the contract he got there. All that being said, I think it's similar with Jacobs, and now let's play this game with Jacobs. And I'll start with, we already threw out that tier earlier in the show with the Barkley, the Kyron, and all that type of stuff. So let's jump to, Pacheco's in the next tier for you, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with Pacheco. Pacheco, Mixon, Jacobs, ETN, in that order. Would you shift them, change them, keep them?
Do you, say the order again?
Pacheco, Mixon, Jacobs, ETN.
I would have Jacobs at the top of it.
Really?
Yeah, I would.
So you're even higher than I am. And
Yeah.
I'm higher than most.
Yeah, you are. I think we are, right? I mean, I hear it on XM too. You know, when I turn on the channel and Josh Jacobs comes up, people are just like, no, out. And I don't get it. Like, he leaves the crappy Raiders and he goes to one of the better offensive teams in football, and people are just out. And everybody was in on Aaron Jones, and you knew, like you said, the touchdowns have just not been there for him over the past couple of years. And he just hasn't been able to stay healthy. So I just think that they have a big upgrade at the running back positions. So I have him ahead of, I would say it's Jacobs, Pacheco, Mixon, ETN Mixon.
Okay.
But all these guys
The same
very,
tier.
very similar. Yeah, catching balls out of the backfield.
Over under
like the good offenses.
264.5 touches.
I'd say over.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say could we give him 220 carries?
Again, he was on pace for over
Catch
300.
40 balls?
Well
Yeah, he
over
was
300.
well on.
I mean,
well over.
20.7. I mean, by 17 games, he's on pace for like 350.
How much do you think Marshawn Lloyd's going to be involved? Because we know AJ Dillon has had that. He's had a role before when Aaron Jones is hurt. He's just not. I don't. There's a world where
I'll
maybe
give you
he
an
gets a
idea.
couple goal line carries, but I don't think he's going to get a lot of touches. I think the only threat really is Marshawn Lloyd looking good and also catching balls out of the backfield.
I have Lloyd as a direct backup, and I still only have Lloyd for, if I could find his damn name, for 117 touches. And that might even be pushing it.
That may be, actually. I mean, he's finally healthy right now, but he's just hasn't been really, over the course of his young professional career.
Oh, before we get to the last one for today, if you want to do some Survivor, we do have a sponsor for that. So
We do.
great Survivor pool.
By the way, 252 attempts we have for Jacobs. 38
Rushing or
grabs.
total?
Just the attempts, 259 rushing
you have him-
attempts and 38 grabs.
Okay. Yeah, so you have him approaching.
He's pushing
just,
3.
He's just behind 300. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what, 297?
Yeah.
298?
Well, you can bet on the Packers this year, and you see the sponsor if you're hanging out with us here. Circa Sports, the biggest pro football contests are back in Vegas. Circa Survivor and Circa Millions are now up to a record 16 million in guaranteed prizes. 2 ways to win and 0 rake. Circa Survivor, contestants select one team each. You guys are well aware of Survivor contests and how they work, but select one team each week. No point spread. Just have to come out with a W. Last the longest to win it all with $10 million guaranteed. Then Circa Millions make 5 picks against the spread each week. Unlike Survivor, where you just pick the one team and that's it, you can go back to certain squads if you want. Make 5 picks against the spread each week if you share for your share of $6 million guaranteed through quarterly and full season payouts. To enter, you got to head on over to circasports.com for all the details. So a lot of bucks on the line for this upcoming NFL season.
How do you spell tutelage? As I just got like tutel.
I'm the wrong person to ask.
Tutel. I got it. Tutelage. Yes. Go to Circus Sports, by the way. I was just trying. I was playing on my phone because I want to say like under the tutelage of like talking about this kind of stuff, and that was actually going to be something I talked about for these running backs, and then I'm like, it doesn't work there, but now I just want to know how to spell it. Like, well, because it was something you were thinking about. I was going to jump in and under the tutelage, and then the thought went out of my head by the time you got done talking, and then we were into Circa, and then by that point I just wanted to know how to spell it. So Tutelage. You learn things on this show. Anyway,
I certainly do.
yeah. Last one. Your boy. And this isn't coming from Meanie. A lot of people were on this running back last year. No questions about it. Nobody on earth projected the other running back to be a leader in receptions on this team because Javonte Williams was supposed to be okay. Even not necessarily like Breece Hall, but maybe by October. Like, it was supposed to be fine. Like, just take a little bit of time. Maybe he was behind Hall in the progression in the offseason, as some reports were, and that ended up being true. But even so, Javonte Williams looked nothing like the previous Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams looks like either one. I mean, if there's not a bonus life or game over existence of a running back in the NFL, it is Javonte Williams because it is potentially game over. Last year's Javonte Williams is game over in the NFL because, unfortunately, and I would hate this for him, but he is not the same player. This is just the injury destroyed his career, unfortunately. Or there is bonus life here. Like, there are some running backs that come from ligament tears and take an entire year to get back to themselves. So you have to make this choice. Here's the problem on top of it. They drafted Estime. Every report out there say there's no way on earth Estime doesn't make this team. They love the power of Estime. Granted, he's a power back.
Is he
so
ever?
There's still something. Yes, there's something in the passing game here. A lot of people, like us included, are on McLaughlin in the passing game, who I think also has some really nice shiftiness in the run game. I actually think Estime McLaughlin would make a great 1-2 punch. I think those two are the ones that the Broncos should go with, which tells you P. Ryan, the one that was one of the leaders in the team in receiving receptions, one of those two is probably off this team. Now, this wouldn't be the first time Sean Payton's kept 4 running backs if he does keep them all. He's done it before. It's not great for us, and it's not great for whoever the fourth option is. But Javonte Williams, either via a new team or just the rookie struggles, McLaughlin can't handle a bigger workload. Like, there's a lot of things that have to happen. But is there any chance? I guess this is 2 different questions, Manny. Is there any chance Javonte Williams has a bonus life with the Broncos? And then if not, and he is cut, is there somewhere where he could have a bonus life? He probably wouldn't have the starting job immediately, but is there hope for Javonte Williams? Because if you watch ADP, he is sliding. He is falling. Like, somebody give him a parachute.
Yeah, he is. And that's where I was going to go. Like, not giving him a bonus life in Denver, it's game over. It's game over for him in Denver. And it isn't just because he wasn't efficient last year. It's because Sean Payton, I don't think he cares for him, man. I really don't. I could see why he may have, went away from him. But there were times where he pulled him off near the goal line where I didn't think that he should, for Samaje Perine, who I don't feel like is better than him in terms of running between the tackles. And Jaleel McLaughlin's a nice little piece. He was that's probably part of it as well. Javonte was not efficient, not looking great. Jaleel McLaughlin was, and it looked like Jalen Warren in Pittsburgh. It just looked like a scenario where you needed to get the backup running back a few more touches because he was looking better. And now I do believe in the reports from the Denver Post where Javonte Williams and Samaje Perine are on the bubble to get cut. One of them's going to make the squad. One of them's not. And Samaje Perine is on the final year of his deal, and you would assume maybe he's that guy that isn't, but he's a durable back. He's an experienced back. He's filled in before to be the RB1. He's great in pass protection. You got a rookie quarterback and Bo Nix. Like, those things I think are important. It's tough to imagine just giving up on somebody like Javonte Williams because you're right. He was so good in that rookie season, right? Melvin Gordon had a good year before, and he just overtook Melvin Gordon towards the end of the season. Him and Cam Akers, they won me a lot of consolation brackets that year because their first half of their seasons were just awful. And Javonte Williams had a great second half. I believe in the talent. I think that what you said, maybe another year. So I don't want to write him off. I think he's a good buy low in Dynasty, but even still with him falling, pick 112, RB33, he was going in the 9th round last year. And I was just like, I like that price tag. It's kind of a similar price tag right now on a team that I'm not sure if they like him mixed in with the backs. Estime does look like a great power back. He should be their goal line running back. And I haven't seen him take a snap in the NFL yet.
Yeah, my hesitancy with Estime, and this is from being a Notre Dame fan, I always have hesitancies with Notre Dame running backs because if you want to talk about, well, no, let's be honest, you want to talk about offensive lines helping. I mean, there's some holes that I could have run through. Again, I would have only made it past the line of scrimmage and then blown up into a Thanos snap. I would have died, but I would have at least got past the line of scrimmage just from those holes. The problem is like, I don't think Estime is a great creator. So I think a lot's going to rely on Peyton, this offense, the offensive line. Now, granted, if he gets to that gap, and he doesn't need a huge one, but if he gets to that, there's some similarities to Derrick Henry. He gets those first two steps, you're going to be hurting when you try to take him down. And I think that's the upside of him. But I say that to say, I don't think he's a bell cow because I don't think he's equipped to be a bell cow. Somebody has to be involved. So I'm presenting this case to now you. Let's finish the show with the opposite of what we just did. I'm going to go Javonte Williams under and kind of say like this guy over him. So like Javonte Williams, or let's go down. Let's just let's go Dowdle. Would you go Rico Dowdle or would you go Javonte Williams?
I would go Rico Dowdle over Javonte Williams. This game's going to pain me. It's going to kill me.
It is because there's a lot of, I mean, we're in backup territory. These are all backups. Blake Corum.
Yeah, Blake Corum.
I'm taking Corum. Algier, our boy. We're taking Algier.
How about Zach Robinson talking him up the other night? He's going to be a big factor in the offense. I thought he was wearing an Arthur Smith mask. I would take Algier. It's just two backs there. It's less crowded. You know what I mean?
It is.
Estime is the perfect back to fit in because they don't have anybody else like that. And I agree with what your take on him. But keep going.
If you're drafting in half-point PPR, are you taking Williams or are you taking McLaughlin?
I'm taking McLaughlin. I'm surprised that there's a big gap between them. It actually is surprising. It may be one of the biggest flips that we see, especially if he gets cut. But McLaughlin at RB46, pick 150 versus Javonte at RB33, pick 112. This is a no-brainer for me.
How about one we didn't talk a lot about to this date? We probably will at some point through the rest of the shows before the season starts. But it was weird because they gave this running back a contract, and it was a contract where we're just kind of like, oh, that's a decent contract. We didn't even see that coming. And then they re-upped the running back on the team with a bigger contract, which made everybody go, what? Like, what are you guys doing? Talking about Antonio Gibson and Ramondre Stevenson. Also, two good pass catchers. Like, you want to talk about not knowing what a team is doing. Like, so would you go Antonio Gibson or would you go Javonte Williams?
I would go with Gibson. Yeah, I mean, he could be surprising. I think he's going to cut into a lot of what Ramondre does, especially on third down situations. Ramondre's a hell of a pass catcher, but we know Gibson's a former wide receiver, converted running back. Do they line him out wide? Do they get anything from anyone in the wide receiver room? Like, he could be those guys could lead the Patriots in catches this season. So I'll go Antonio Gibson.
Wouldn't it shock me? How about this one? Khalil Herbert or Javonte Williams? Tough. How about Khalil Herbert or Roschon Johnson or Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I probably take a shot on the Bears' backs because of the situation in Denver. It's just not good. Yeah, it's 3 versus 4. It's not good. I think I'd feel better about Roschon. I think Khalil Herbert's one of those guys that Chicago could move on from. Like, I just think of Dallas. Like, what if Javonte Williams was cut? Would the Cowboys make the call? Like, holy crap. Like, let's jump on Javonte Williams right now. I know the offensive line is taking some hits, but yeah, a few teams for sure. Why not?
Like, I know the Giants signed Singletary, and I don't support the Giants at this point, but like, why not?
Yeah, why not?
There's a lot of teams that are why not.
Even Pirine. A lot of teams would call Pirine too, if that was the case.
All right, as we get out of here, there's a couple. Now we're into injured/rookies.
Yeah, I'm going to take
J.K. Dobbins or Javonte?
I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins.
There's just more upside.
That may surprise you.
No, I would take Dobbins too. There's more. All right, and then as we get out of here, 5 names. 5, because they're all rookies. His teammate Estime, Bucky Irvin, Jalen Wright, Ray Davis, Marshawn Lloyd. Basically, the 5 rookie running backs that are.
I don't think I'd take any of those.
None.
Yeah, I was thinking about Lloyd.
Not even Estime. If you think he's going to be the lead.
No, not Estime. I don't think he's gonna be the lead. I mean, he does kind of profiles. Maybe he could 7-8
How many
touches first
touchdowns
down.
is this team going to score though?
That's the
It's
thing.
yeah.
Denver's gonna be the worst. I think Denver
First, second down.
Yeah, Denver, New England,
Ooh.
Carolina. Those are the three teams, and the Broncos win
Why are you
totals
leaving
at
out the
5.5.
Giants?
Yeah, I guess I did leave out the Giants.
I know somebody. I don't want to call him his name because in case he's wrong, but I know somebody who is at Giants training camp and texted me. He goes, "This team is not winning 4 games." Like this, he's like, "That's it." Well, part of it has to do with just the corners alone, and they're like, they have Baker on. Baker's his last name, right? Why am I brain farting here? This is how little I pay attention to the Giants now. They had on Neighbors, and he's like, he's a fine number 2, but he should not be their number 1 corner. Like, and just like looking down, he's like, there are so many. He's like, this team is bad, dude. Like that's what he was texting me. This team is bad.
Giants are bad.
Yeah.
Carolina reasons to be optimistic about them improving. New
I think
England.
Carolina wins more games than the Giants.
At least New England has a good defense. Denver, I don't know what they have going for them, to be honest with you.
Right now, I would like if I said the top of next year's draft, Denver, New England, New York Giants would be top 3 picks.
And only one's going to be looking for a quarterback.
Maybe, unless Bo Nix is a bust.
Yeah.
You know who's not
Possible.
a bust? Chris Meaney.
Yeah.
He has a nice bust. I'll see it live in New York. Or potentially already did live in New York, depending on when you're listening to this. Make sure you're following at Chris Meaney over on FTN, all the good work over The Athletic, the downloadable spreadsheet, and all that good stuff. Please go read my article on zone defenses and pre-snap motion. I love it. I work so damn hard on it. I don't care if you just click on it. I don't even care. No, but jokes aside, get your entries in there. 5 possible entries to do so. Just subscribe on Apple Podcast. You can subscribe anywhere, but the entry is on Apple. And rate, review, 5 stars makes it 2 instead of just 1, and then tweet about it. But make sure you tag us so I see your tweet, or send a screenshot of all 3 and send it to Ciely at The Athletic. And we'll be back next time, probably, maybe with some guests from Flex. We'll see. I'll see you later.
And
Toodles.
maybe a copy of Madden 97.
Oh, yeah. That's right. If we get inside the top 10 on the podcast, I'll give out a copy of Madden. The show should have ended like 10 minutes ago. We're just running right now. You're going to have to cut me off like I make Fox do.